Hello Divination and welcome. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create custom event listing and registration pages with Divi and WooCommerce. The main asset you're going to need is the Farmers Market Layout Pack, which can be found in the link that I'll leave in the show notes below. So that's where you're going to get all your images that we're going to use. We're also going to use an image which has dimensions of 1200 by 800 pixels. This main image is going to be for the page title, and then we're also going to need one more image which is 600 by 800 pixels. And finally, we're going to need our WooCommerce plugin, so I'll show you as well how to set it up. So without wasting a lot of time, let's dive in and let me show you how we managed to create this. So I've gone ahead and downloaded all the assets that I need in order for me to build this page. So the next thing I'm going to do is to build our brand new page. So I'm going to come over here to Pages, click on Add New. We're going to call this page September Organic Cooking Class, and then click on Use the Divi Builder. Next, we want to go ahead and click on Use Visual Builder. Now, let's start off by adding a background image to our main section. So I'm going to come over here to this gear icon, click it once, and then I'm going to click on Background. So over here, I'm going to go to the third tab, click the plus button to add our image. So this is the image I'm going to use. So I'm going to select it and then click Upload an Image. So now we can see that our image is in the background. Right, so next we're going to come over here to our background image blend. I'm going to click on normal and then change that to overlay. And then next I'm going to come over here to the first tab, click this plus button to add our color. Now my color here is going to be an RGBA value. So I'm going to paste my values between the brackets. And if you'd like to follow along and use the exact settings that I'm using here, I will leave a link to the the post in the comments box below. Okay, so now that I have my color here, I'm going to go ahead now and save changes. Now it's time to add our page heading. So I'm going to come over here, click the plus button, and then I'm going to add a single column. And in this column, we're going to add a text module. So I'm going to click on text. So our page title here is going to be called September Organic Class. And I'm going to make this a H1, so heading 1. So I've highlighted the text here. So here by default, it's set on paragraph. So I need to click this drop down and set this to heading 1. Next, we need to customize this text. So you can see here that the text is quite dark and we can't read it. So we need to adjust all that. So next, we're going to go into this design tab, click on heading text. Now the text we need to customize here is the H1, which is the heading 1. So first of all, I'm going to change this to Lato. So I'm going to search for it. I'm going to select my font. And then from here, we're going to change this from a regular to bold. So we want this nice and bold. And then also the text size needs to be set to about 46, like that. Next, we're going to make sure that this is centered. And then finally, we need to change the heading text color. So I'm going to click this button here, and then select my color. And now we can see that it's now easier for us to read it. Now it's time to add padding. So I'm going to come over here to spacing. So padding top, I'm going to set this to 100. So the reason why I'm adding this 100 to the top is just for us to show more of this image and also to give this page title some breathing space. So on the bottom here, I'm going to add 75 like that. And now that's looking really good. Right, so let's go ahead and save. And then next, I'm going to add another section. So I'm going to click this plus button here, and this is going to be a regular section. This time, we're going to have 2 equal columns. And my first column here is going to have an image. So I'm going to select my image module, click the image URL, and then I'm going to select my image here, click Upload an Image. So that's the image that we're going to use. So I'm going to close this for now. And then over here, I'm going to click this plus button here to add my text module. I'm going to search for it first, select it, and then I'm going to start adding all my text. So I'm going to start off by adding my heading. And this is Reserve Your Spot Today. So this heading is going to be set to heading 2, like that. And then I'm also going to add some paragraph text. So I'm going to paste my text in here, like that. Now it's time to save what we've done so far, and let's go and do some customizations to our section. So I'm going to hover over my section here, click this gear icon. And the first thing we're going to do on this section is to add a background color because we really want this to stand out. So I'm going to click on background, click this plus button to add our background color. I'm going to paste the value in here. Now it's time to go into the design tab. So ideally what we want to have here is this image really touching the edges here. So to do that, we're going to come over here to spacing and we're going to add 0 to the custom margin like that. So now our image is really flash with the background. Next, we're going to come over here to column 2 custom padding. I'm going to add 60 to the top and then 25 all around, just to give this a bit of breathing space like that. For now, we're going to go ahead and save. And then next, I'm going to come over here to my image module settings, click on design, sizing, and we're going to force full width like that. Now we're going to add some changes to the custom margin. So I'm going to come over here to spacing and custom margin top. I'm going to add -40 and then custom margin bottom. I'm going to do the same and add -40. Next, I'm going to come over here to my custom padding left and add 60 like that. So now we have this unique design here on this section. Finally, we're going to animate this. So we're going to come over here to the animation tab. Sorry, we want the animation intensity to be 8. The opacity needs to be set at 100. And I'm going to leave the animation duration at 1000 milliseconds. And the direction here needs to be up. So I'm going to set that and make it slide up like that. So that's all we have to do. And then let's go ahead and save settings. So what we need to do next is to come over here to the text module and customize this. So I'm going to click this gear icon for the module settings, click the design tab, and then I'm going to come over here to text. Now you can see here it's dark. We can't really read it. So I'm going to change that dark to light. So that's looking much better. Next, I'm going to come over here to my text font, and this font, let's use Montserrat. So I'm going to select that. So that's going to be my font. So for my text size, I'm going to set this to 18. And then over here on the text line height, I'm going to set this to 1.8. Next, I'm going to come over here to my text orientation and I'm going to select justified. Now let's go and customize our heading. So I'm going to come to my heading text. And then here I am going to come over here to H2 because that's what we set it to. And then I'm going to select my heading 2 font. And we should have it selected here later because we used that earlier on. Right, so next I'm going to come over here and make sure that this is centered. And I'm going to set my line height to 1.8 to give this a bit of breathing space. Next, we need to adjust our padding. So I'm going to come over here to spacing. So for our padding top, I'm going to add 10. And then for the right, I'm going to add 60. For the bottom, I'm going to use 10 and 0 for the left. So now we can see that our text is now centered inside this red area. Now it's time to add our button below the text module. So I'm going to go ahead now and save. And then I'm going to click this plus button to add our module. And I'm going to search for my button module. And it's right here. So the button text is going to be buy your ticket. And then I'm going to click here on the link. So for now, I'm just going to add a blank link like that. And then I'm going to come over here to design so we can customize the size and colors and so forth. So the first thing I'm going to do here is to click on alignment and I'm going to make sure that this is centered. Now it's time to customize the button. So I'm going to come over here to button, click on use custom styles for button. And then I'm going to set my text color to white. And then I'm going to add my background color. I'm just going to paste my hexadecimal value in here like that. So now we can see that our button is now showing. I'm going to set my text size to 18 because 20 is a bit too much. So I'm just going to make it slightly smaller. Right, so let's come over here to our button border width. I'm going to set this to 8. And then our button border color, I'm going to add my RGBA value. Okay, so that's going to be like that. Next, we're going to come over here to our border radius. I'm just going to set this to 0. And then our letter spacing, I'm going to set that to 1, just to give it a bit of breathing space. Right, so next, let's adjust our font, button font. So here, I'm going to select Lato. And for our font weight, we're going to make this bold. Next, we're going to come over here to spacing. So I'm going to come all the way down, click on spacing. And we are going to add our custom margin right, and this is going to be set to 60. Okay, so again, now our button is really centered and it's working well with our text. Right, so our primary call to action looks really nice, but we can see here that this section here is a bit cramped, so we need to add a bit of padding so that this call to action area here is not too close to the edges. So I'm going to save this for now, and then we're going to go into our section settings, click on design, and then I'm going to come over here to spacing, and I'm going to add my custom padding top of 110, like that. And then I'm going to do the same to the bottom. So now it's not cramped anymore. Go ahead and save. Now it's time to add another section. So I'm going to come over here, click this plus button, make sure it's regular, and we need 2 columns as we did before. And on my first one here is going to be a text module. So I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to click my heading text as meet your instructor. I'm just going to paste in here. In fact, I might as well add my heading, and this is going to be heading 2. And then I'm also going to add some dummy text. Right, so I'm going to paste my dummy text in here, go onto the design tab. So first of all, I'm going to come over here to my heading text and make sure that this is set to Lato. Next, I'm going to click on the text, and I'm just going to make sure that this text is set to Montserrat, like that. And the size needs to be set to 16. Our line height needs to be set at 1.8. And then we're going to set this to justified as we did here at the top. So let's just go back here to our heading text. So we need to make sure that it's bold. So I'm going to come over here to heading font weight and set it to bold. And I'm just going to make sure that this is H2 because I was setting the wrong one. So make sure that your heading is the right one. So I'm just going to come back here and do those settings again. So I'm going to select my heading font, it's Lato, and then I'm going to set it to bold. The size needs to be 36. And in fact, if that doesn't work, just do it manually. And then we also need to set our line height. So I'm going to set this to about 2.7. And then I'm going to save. Next, I'm going to come over here to the right and add our image module. I'm just going to search for it like that. Select it. Click upload. Now I already have my image here in my image library, in my media library. So I'm going to select it. Click upload an image. Right. So the next thing we're going to do here is to come over here to design. Click on sizing, and instead of having this as 100%, we're going to set this to about 70, like that, because 100% was way too big. In fact, that's a bit too small. Let's leave it at 75 and save. Right, we're almost done here. So the next thing we need to do is to just add a background texture onto this section. So I'm going to click this gear icon on the section. Click on a background, and then I'm going to click this third tab. Click the plus button, and the background texture I need is here. So I'm going to select it and click upload an image. So this just adds an extra touch to our section. So now that I have that in place, I'm going to go ahead now and click on the design tab. Click on sizing. Oh, in fact, I need to go on spacing, and I'm going to add some padding. So on the top, I'm going to add 60. And 60 to the bottom. So what we're doing here, we're just adding some space to the top and bottom just to give this a bit of breathing space. And then finally, we're going to come over here to the animation. I'm going to set this to slide, and the animation direction is up. So we're going to want this to slide up. So on the animation delay, we're going to set this to 200. And then for the intensity, we're going to set this to 2%. And then we're going to go ahead and save. Right, so next we need to add another section. So I'm going to click this plus button, click regular. This time we're going to add a single column. And in that column, we're going to add a text module. So I'm just going to search for it like that and select it. And in here, we're going to add our heading text. I'm going to highlight it. And then I'm going to set this to heading 2. Click design. And then I'm going to come over here to my heading text. Click on heading 2. I'm going to set my heading 2 fonts to Lato. Next, I'm going to make sure that this is centered. Size, we're going to set this to 36. Like that. And then here on the font weight, we're going to make sure that this is set to bold. And then I'm going to go ahead and save settings. So next, we're going to add a gallery module. So what I'm going to do is just below this text module, I'm going to click this plus button and add our gallery module. I'm going to select it. And then here, image number, I'm going to set this to 8. So now you can see it's updating. Right, so what we need to do here is to come to the elements. So these titles don't really make our gallery look neat. So I'm going to disable the title and caption and also the pagination. Okay, so now all we have is images. So back over here to images, I'm going to click update gallery. And then I'm just going to select all the images that I need to use. So I'm just going to click all my images. In fact, it's this one I need. Right, so I've got all my images. I'm going to click add to gallery, update gallery. So now all my images are updated. Next, I'm going to click on the design tab, click on overlay, and I'm going to add my overlay color. So I'm just going to add my hexadecimal value in here like that. So now if I mouse over this, you can see that we have this beautiful overlay. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and save. So we can see here that we have this spacing between these images. We ideally would like to get rid of that. So I'm going to come over here to my row settings, click on design, and then I'm going to come over here to sizing, click on use gutter width. So right now it's set to 3, but when I start decreasing this, you can see that the gap between the images is now decreasing. So I'm going to set this to 1 so we have absolutely no gaps between them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save, and before I start working on my new section, I'm going to come over here and give this a padding of 80. So I'm going to come over here to spacing. So custom padding top, I'm going to set this to 80 like that. Fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead now and save. Now it's time to add our final section. So I'm going to come over here, click this plus button, click on regular. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use this same title above here on the bottom. So I'm going to clone this like that, and then I'm going to drag it into position. And then over here, I'm going to click this plus button and add a single row like that. I'm just going to close it so that I'm able to drag my text module into this area right here. What you will learn. Okay, so now that we have our title, so below this, we need to add 2 more columns. So I'm going to click this plus button here, add our 2 columns. So my first column here is going to be an image module. So I'm going to select image, click on image URL, and I'm going to select my image. And this is the image I'm going to use. Upload an image, and we can see it here showing on the bottom. Right, next we need to adjust the size a little bit. So I'm going to come over here to design, click on sizing. I'm going to set this to about 90, right, and then center it. And then I'm going to come over here to my animation tab, click on slide. So the direction needs to be set to right. So by default, it's set to center. So I'm going to set it to right. The intensity, I'm going to set this to 5%. That. So for now, I'm going to save, and then over here, I'm going to add our blurb module. So I'm going to click this plus button and select my blurb. And for the title, I'm just going to call this item, add my text in here like that. And then over here on image and icon, I'm going to select use icon, and all we need here is a check mark. So I'm just going to scroll down, and here it is. So that's the check mark we're going to use, but obviously this is way too big. So we need to do some customizations to that. Right, so over here to design, I'm going to click on image and icon. So first thing I'm going to do is to change my color, because that color right there does not work with our palette. So I'm going to paste this color here. And then for the image and icon placement, I'm going to place this to the left like that. So next I'm going to come over here to text, and in fact, I'm going to come over to body text and set my line height to 1.8. And then finally, I'm going to come over here to my animation, click on slide, but this time instead of sliding center, we're going to slide left like that. And our animation intensity, we're going to set this to 5% just to make this subtle. And then I'm going to save this for now. Right, so there's one thing that I forgot to do here. You can see my title is not bold, so let's go ahead and fix that. So I'm going to click my settings, click design, and then I'm going to come over here to title text, and I'm going to set it to bold like that. So now that's more prominent. Okay, so I'm going to save. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to come over here to my row settings and click on design, spacing, and I'm going to add a custom padding of 50 to the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and save. Next, I'm just going to duplicate these just to save me adding all that information. So now that I have all my elements in place, so finally here we need to add our button, which will have our call to action. So instead of creating a brand new button, we already created one right here in the beginning. So what I'm going to do is just to copy this and paste it on the button. So I'm going to copy module, and then I'm just going to paste it here like that. Ideally, we want this in its own row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a brand new row and click on a single column. And then I'm just going to drag my button and add it in this row. Finally, to this button, I'm just going to change this text. So I'm going to click on this gear icon to go into the settings. So instead of saying buy your ticket, we're going to call this reserve your spot today. Next, we're going to go into the design tab. And let's add a custom margin of 100, because you can see this call to action button is very close to our image. So I'm going to come over here to spacing, and then for our custom margin top, I'm going to add 100 like that. Let's go ahead and save. So now our page is looking really nice. So your page should look like this if you are following this step by step. Now that our page looks beautiful, it does not connect to a registration service. So what we're going to do is we're going to install WooCommerce so that people are able to reserve their spot and buy their tickets. So I'm going to save this page, and then I'm going to exit the Visual Builder. Okay, so let's go and install our plugin. So I'm going to come over here and click on Dashboard. We're going to go to Plugins and click on Add New. And then over here, I'm going to search for the plugin. So I'm going to search for WooCommerce. And here it is. I'm going to click Install now. Let's go ahead and activate it. Right, so what we need to do here is to follow this introduction. So I'm going to click on Let's Go. I'm going to add my address. So this is just an address so that we get past all these stages. So I've got that in place. I'm going to leave the pound sterling, but obviously if you're in the States, you can add your dollars, but I'm just going to click Let's Go. So next you want to set up your payment system. So if you have Stripe, you can activate it here. And if you've got PayPal, you can also activate it here. I'm going to click Continue. Okay, so I have to add a cost. So cost as well here. But of course, if you're setting up this properly on your website, you need to be putting the right figures in these areas. Okay, so recommended extras, I'm going to click Continue. And then finally, I'm going to click Finish setting up your store. I'm just going to add my email address. And then next, I'm going to click on Create a Product. So my product name is going to be called September Organic Cooking Class. I'm going to add my description here, but for that, I'm just going to use my lorem ipsum text just to add some dummy text. But in your case, you need to go in and add your proper description for your product. So I'm going to paste it in here like that. Next, you need to make sure that this is a virtual product. And for my regular price, I'm going to set this at £49 sterling. And then over here, I'm going to add my short description. And then I'm just going to make sure that right over here, I'm going to set my product image. So here, I'm just going to use one of my images. So I'm going to select this one here, set product image. Right, so over here, I'm going to set my category. So I'm going to call my category events. Add new category, and it gets selected by default. And then over here on the page layout, we need to make sure that this is set to full width because we don't need any sidebars on this. So this is looking good so far. I'm going to click on publish, and then I'm going to click on view product. Okay, so this is our final product, but we're not done yet because we need to connect our buttons to this page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this URL right here at the top. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to come over here to the page that we've just created. So what I'm going to do is go into my visual builder, and then we're going to make sure that these buttons here link to that product. So I'm going to come over here to the module settings, click on link, and then here, instead of having a blank link, I'm going to paste it, and this is now going to go to our product. So I'm going to save this for now, scroll all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to do the same here for this button as well. Click here on my link, paste my URL, and then I'm going to save. Now I'm going to save the page and test the links and see if these links are working. So I'm going to click on Exit Visual Builder. So now when our visitors land on this page, if they click Buy Your Ticket, that will take them to this page to make the payment. And we're going to test the other link as well. So it's all the way down here at the bottom. So again, I'm going to click on Reserve Your Spot, and this should open a new tab. A new page. There we go. So now our page is now fully functioning, and we are able now to buy your tickets on this page. So there you have it. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and do follow us on our social media platforms. By doing so, you'll be notified every time we release new videos. Until next time, thanks for watching. See you soon.